Welcome to the SKE podcast. I'm Siobhan Kelleher, the Director of Siobhan Kelleher Education. We're a training centre, approved centre by Educol, and we provide courses around oral health, lifestyle medicine, positive psychology and coaching. And well, why? How did it come about? Well, I was treating patients as a dental hygienist for about 20 years, and I knew that there had to be more. So I went back to study a master's in coaching. I then did a qualification in facilitation, and then I found a course, Positive Health with the Royal College of Surgeons. And really that course was light bulb for me because it really addressed what I'd been looking for. The thing is, they didn't even mention oral health. So I decided to create the Diploma in Oral and Positive Health, which is a combination of lifestyle medicine and positive psychology. We are in our third year now, with graduates going off doing all kinds of things. We're going to bring on some of the graduates on as guests so you can hear their stories. So what is lifestyle medicine? Well, there are 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. And the research behind these is that by implementing the lifestyle medicine pillars, we can help our patients to prevent non-communicable diseases. Well, not just our patients, but our family, people in the community. And lifestyle medicine is about focusing on the habits and behaviours and helping the population to change behaviours. There are 5 conditions, so diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, respiratory disorders, and mental health disorders. And they're estimated to account for about 70% of the disease burden in the European region. So that's the 5x5 framework. And what we're really hoping, and that there's a big push out there, you'll start reading about this, we now want to see oral diseases put into this framework, so be a 6x6 framework. 3.5 billion people in the world have oral diseases, and they surpass all the other non-communicable diseases. And we know that this is preventable. So when we look at the pillars of lifestyle medicine, there are nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress management, avoiding risky substances, and positive relationships or social connection. So if you have a little pen there beside you, I was going to ask you a couple of questions and see where do you fit into this. So if we consider nutrition, do you eat 5 or more fruits and veg a day? Do you do 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week? Do you smoke? Do you vape? Can you have 1 or 2 alcohol drinks and have no more? Do you sleep more than 7 hours of sleep a night? Do you have a go-to for stress, some kind of management for stress? And do you have social relationships? So, do you have somebody at home, or do you have a group where you go out to that you're part of? Something that we call, when we go out there into the community to cafes and libraries and so on, we call them the third place. We now have the 4th place, which is very much online, and we're part of organisations and groups and associations and so on. And of course, we have our WhatsApp groups, which, are very helpful. One thing I would just consider that you turn your notifications off so they're not always pinging. So that's the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And interestingly, there's a TED talk by Marielle Perisou, and she's a dentist, and she asks the question that if enamel is the hardest thing in the body, and then it can be broken down by time, bacteria, and sugar. If that enamel is broken down, for instance, in a child, should it be a marker on the medical notes early on? Should that be some kind of a marker system? So I really recommend having a listen to that TED talk. When we look at the pillars of lifestyle medicine and we consider the nutrition, it's that type of Mediterranean diet, those deep-coloured fruits and veg. And they're not saying not to eat meat, but like maybe a smaller piece, organic or locally sourced, rather than this mass-produced. And then if we consider physical activity, so they say about 150 to 300 minutes moderate exercise a week, or 75 to 150 more vigorous, but very important to have 2 strength training exercises put in there per week. When we look at substance abuse, it doubles the risk of arthritis, chronic pain, hypertension, so many diseases. It's largely been treated outside the medical world, if you like, but the HSE in Ireland and the National Health Service in the UK are really trying to bring in programs and really bring it into the medical world and not have it been treated in isolation. Then if we look at smoking and vaping, smoking might be on the decrease, but vaping seems to be on the increase, particularly with young children, and particularly these snus. And Elaine Tilling's going to come on and speak to us all about that. She's done a lot of research around this and keeps us all up to date. When we look at social connection, we used to think that actually you had to give somebody a hug for oxytocin, the happy hormone, to be released. But we now know by just walking down the street or meeting somebody that we know that oxytocin is released. Social connection is very important. And we're really going to have a little deep dive into social connection at home and our roles at work. And the third place, out and about in the community. And the fourth place, been online. Stress, I think we all know what stress is like, particularly in society at the moment. But it's connected to anxiety, depression, so on. And stress is okay. If we go back to the fight or flight response we had to run from the saber tiger. So we remember that the hypothalamus triggers the pituitary gland, pituitary triggers the adrenal glands, the adrenal triggers the blood supply, and the blood supply goes out into the arms and legs, and that's great because we have to run from the saber tiger. And that's all well and good for about 10 minutes, but really what's happening is we're staying in a chronic state of stress, so the body's not getting to recover. So at that time, the gut closes down, and the gut is either in production or protection. But we need the gut to be in production because it's like the workhorse of the body, if you like. But if it stays in protection, it stays closed down, but we need it to get it working again. And the same with the blood supply in the brain is pushed to the subconscious. And again, we're going to do more of a deep dive into this stress in the body. I love the work by Bruce Lipton. So he's a cell biologist and a lecturer, and he talks about all of this connection down to cellular level. So we in dentistry, we like the science. We like to know, what's going on at the cellular level. So he talks about the DNA, and it has a telomere length. And we used to think that this kind of predicts how long you would live or predict disease progression and so on. And we used to think that the telomere, when it replicated, that it dropped off, and that was just how long it would predict that you would live. But then actually what they realized was an enzyme called telomerase can be released in certain circumstances. So what can increase that length, so we're looking at longevity, is good nutrition, particularly omega-3, your exercise, this gratitude, being in purpose, being in service. And then what can decrease it is poor nutrition, lack of exercise, in bad situations, bad living situations and so on. So if you get the chance, look up Bruce Lipton, really interesting guy, and his lectures are absolutely fantastic. One of the other pillars is sleep. And we need to be getting about 7 hours sleep a night. But what's happening is we now live in a world where we can have electricity 24 hours round the clock. And yet the circadian rhythm controls everything, metabolism and so on. But our bodies need to know that at night time that it's dark and that day is bright, the daytime. But when I even think about when I used to work in surgeries, I would go in the morning and then come out in the evening. I wouldn't have even seen a little bit of daylight. So I would just consider trying to get yourself out at lunchtime. You shouldn't be writing notes at lunchtime. You need to get out there, bring your cup of tea, a cup of coffee, get your coat on, even though now it's the winter, and let your body get that daylight so the body knows that it's day. And then at the night time, equally, it needs to know that it's the night time, so it needs to be dark. So, sometimes when you're sat in the sitting room and you start getting really sleepy, and then you get up and you go down or up, my house is down, but you switch on the light, and what they say, it's melatonin is released, and it's a little bit like a race. So if we go then and turn the light on, it's like as if we're cutting off the race. So I would say maybe consider brushing your teeth before you sit down in the evening, or just leave lamp lights on in your bedroom so you're not putting that really bright light on. Because often that happens and then you get into bed and you go, oh my goodness, now I'm wide awake. What on earth happened there when I was so tired before? So it's about just putting these little rituals into place. And I'm not going to go into the phone and iPads because you already know that. One of the way of measuring the daylight is something called lux, and you can get a little app and lots of them are free. On a really sunny day, you'd get about 30,000 lux. These dollar days could be 8,000, 10,000. It's worth even measuring where you're working in the day and try to get to beside a window as much as you can, just to get that lux light into the body. So the pillars of lifestyle medicine, there is 5 places in the world, and they're called the blue zones, and they live by the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And Dan Buettner, a journalist, has been looking at the research the last 20 years. So more places are emerging, but we have the evidence from the last 20 years. And they are in Costa Rica, California, Greece, Italy, and Japan. And the message really that you take away from them, so they eat mainly plants, they eat less, they tend to have their own gardens, they do the growing of their own veg and so on. It's natural movement. So often they have services where they walk up hills or, get out for a walk up into the village or the hills or whatever. And their shopping is probably the strength training. They don't necessarily have to have weights or anything like that. And they have meaning and purpose, and they have a community around them. So going back to, is it a family or is it a community of friends and so on? And this seems to be very important through social connection. If we think about the Eastern world, they have lower tables and they can get up and down from those tables about 30 times a day. What we see is that actually in the Western world, we have way more fractures than they do in the Eastern world. So I just thought that's quite interesting. In one of the places in the blue zones is in Okinawa, they have something called your ikigai. And Iki mean in life and gai mean your worth or your value. And it's that, what's your reason for living? It can be something that the world needs, something that you can be paid for, something that you absolutely love doing. When we say paid for, sometimes in the Western world, we use that in money terms, but in the Eastern world, theirs is more around an energy that you get back from it. And your ikigai can be your work, it can be your hobby, your side hustle. It can be so many things, and we would definitely dedicate a whole podcast to ikigai. This is all well and good, but what about the, positivity, and how does positive psychology fit into this? Well, Martin Seligman, he's like the grandfather of positive psychology. And he was voted in as the president to the Psychological Association in 1986. And it was the biggest vote in of its time. And why? Because he said, why are we spending all this money, putting all the research into mental illness? Why are we not having a look at this other group of people over here, the happy people? What are they doing? Why don't we research that? And so it began. And even to today, there's such a massive turnout of this research coming forth. And, we often see it now leaking through on social media and so on. I think it's particularly interesting. I think it might be something we could do in dentistry. Maybe look at dental practices. Why do some work so well while other ones don't? Martin Seligman, he has the model PERMA and the, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning. And so again, we'll do more of a deep dive into that. And he worked alongside Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And Mihai, he said that humans really are at the happiest or at the deepest sense of themselves when they're in their flow. And your flow can be, when you're doing something that you absolutely love doing and you lose track of time and you go, oh my God, I can't believe the time. It could be painting, could be doing a dance, could be your work. So I just think it's really interesting. So it's like a little jigsaw puzzle that we put everything together on the courses here at SKE. So the diploma in oral and positive health, We look at so many different elements, like I say, like a jigsaw piece where we put it all together and look at a broad range of topics for our patients. Lots of dental nurses contacted me, but there was a clinical element to the diploma that wouldn't have suited. So we created the certificate in lifestyle medicine coaching. And we just more recently created the certificate in health education. So these courses will helps with communication, understanding habits, creating a space, particularly in coaching, that looks at goal setting and a safe space for people. And the health education then is looking at similar, but more going out, maybe doing presentations and doing group work and so on. I'm very excited to bring you lots of content over this series. And if there's a topic that you would like to see covered, please get in touch with us, because we have a fantastic network. We're going to bring on some of the graduates and tell you the stories, the things that they've gone on to do. I'm really excited to go on this journey with you and share some of the insights of the content from some of our courses. So please hit the subscribe button and let your friends and colleagues know, and look forward to the next episode. Take care.